Thank you so much for meeting with us today. Joyce is here today to help us in translation. And I know we've heard of her ministry for some time and we're looking forward to it. But thank you for being with us today.
もうこちらこそありがとうございます。
Can you both tell me a little bit about how you became a Christian?
私は母が
My mother was a Christian, so I went to church growing up. Not because I wanted to, but because she made me. My father was not a Christian, so I often felt pulled between the two of them. I had to choose between going to church with my mom or spending time with my dad. Most of the time, I would rather go to the park with my dad. When I was in junior high, I attended a special evangelistic service. That was when I believed that Jesus Christ died, was buried, and rose again for me. Of course, I had heard the stories about Jesus my whole life. But it was in 8th grade that I realized it had to do with me personally. I understood that Christ's death was for me. As a 14-year-old, I raised my hand and accepted Christ.
そういう経緯です。
That is how I was saved.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
私は
I was saved 3 years ago when I was 26 years old. My now husband invited me to church, and that was the first time I had ever gone. I had always been afraid to express my feelings because I worried about what people might think of me. But the first time I came to church and heard about God's love, that He loved me so much that He gave His only Son as a sacrifice for me, I was excited to accept God's love for myself.
を、受け入れました。
Thank you. That's incredible. Now, you've stepped into the role of a pastor. What has been some of the challenges and some of the great blessings of that role? And then I'll ask you, as a pastor's wife, being saved now for a couple years, how does that made you feel? What have been the joys and the difficulties?
恵みいっぱいありますけど、
Many blessings.
何分ぐらい使っていいんですか？
How many minutes do I have?
恵みは本当にいっぱい
Seeing
あります。
friends come to know Christ has been a great blessing. Now I know they are friends forever, not just here on this earth. Watching their lives change because of Jesus, and knowing I was able to play a small part in that, has been incredibly encouraging. I am constantly amazed at the way God works. People sometimes ask how God uses me, but the truth is that He does all the work. He simply allows me to be a part of it. I was training under the missionary pastor we had at the time. I was still in my 20s and learning, and during that season, I was able to see God work in powerful ways. When the pastor had to leave quite suddenly, I was pushed into becoming the pastor myself. Over and over again, I saw God at work, and that has been a great blessing to me. Even back then, I knew I wanted to serve God. I was interested in becoming a pastor, but I kept telling myself I could not do that.
I know that feeling.
I had plans to open my own restaurant and get certified, but God kept drawing my heart back to ministry. It was not that I did not want to be a pastor. I just believed I was not capable. Still, the Lord continued to place this calling on my heart. In the end, I chose to follow Him and became a pastor. My prayer was simple. Lord, I do not know if you can use me, but if you can, please try. God has given so much fruit, and I know it is not because of my own efforts. One of my close friends, Shohei, was helping me pursue cooking. When I decided to leave that path and go to Bible school instead, he was shocked. He could not understand why I would do that, but God had already begun changing my heart, and I felt a strong desire to share the gospel with my friends.
それで翔平とか
I invited Shohei, Koji, Ayano, and Saya to church, and several of them came to know Christ. I began taking Bible school classes while still attending university, studying both for ministry and for cooking. At first, I felt very alone because I was the only believer. The burden felt heavy. Then Shohei got saved. Then Ayano got saved. Slowly, a group of believers began to form. It seemed that every time I was close to giving up, God sent encouragement. My best friend, Shohei, was called to preach. He went to Bible school in Saitama, graduated, and now serves as a pastor in Fukushima. He became the pastor there this year.
Wow.
Saya was saved as well, went to Bible school, graduated this past June, and is now serving as a missionary in Bangladesh.
Wow.
There are so many blessings. I could go on and on. The Lord saves people, helps them grow. and then sends them out to serve Him. I cannot think of a greater encouragement than that.
Thank you. That's incredible hearing what God's done and the encouragement that it is. Actually, later on, I'll ask you a question about the hope for the gospel. And the answer that you just gave is so encouraging that God is at work here. Coming to Christ about 3 years ago and now being a pastor's wife, that's a big change in life. How can you describe what's happened maybe in the last couple of years?
でも本当にすごい恵みだなと。
I'm amazed by how little I can do on my own. But the Lord has already placed people in our church with different gifts, and they're helping each other and working together as the body of Christ. Seeing God work through that has been a big blessing to me.
Something that you would say a lot of Americans don't realize about Christianity in Japan.
アメリカどうかわかん
People
ない
aren't very eager to talk about faith over here in Japan. They may not show anger, but instead, they slowly pull away and avoid the conversation. Japanese people are very polite, so they'll smile and listen. But afterward, they may not want to continue the relationship, and you might not see them again. Because of that, it can be hard to know whether the message is really reaching their hearts. It often takes time to understand what they're truly feeling.
私はずっと
I was always warned about church. It was seen as a scary place, and that's how I was raised. Even stepping into a church was a big hurdle, and it still is for many Japanese people.
あと日本
If
人
you
は
ask many Japanese people what a church is, they'll say it's a place where you're pressured to buy things like pottery or raise money for different religious things. When I tell people I go to church, some imagine a place where you're locked in, your phone is taken away, and you're brainwashed. They think church controls what you eat, where you go, and how you live your life. That's the picture many people have, that church people control your life. And that's probably what she thought too.
じゃない友
Of
達
course, most of my friends weren't Christians, so when I told them I had become a Christian, they were really worried about me. They kept asking, "Are you okay? Are you sure?"
So all around Asia, we're seeing the gospel start to explode in a good way. Japan is still very low percentage-wise of Christianity. When you look at the next 10, 15 years in Japan, what's your hope for the gospel to grow and to flourish in Japan?
I think the younger generation is starting to move away from the prejudice against religion. Many young people are at least willing to look into it, step inside, and see what it's really like. That feels like a good step forward. More people are willing to listen now than in the past, especially younger people. Social media has helped with that. They can look up a church online and say, "Oh yeah, we've seen your church on Instagram. It looks welcoming." Because of that, they're more willing to check it out than they used to be. I don't know if this is the same across all of mainland Japan, but in Okinawa there are many types of churches, many denominations, and many different teachings. Recently though, I've seen people leave charismatic churches because they want to know what the Bible really says. They're starting to ask questions and explore, instead of just staying where they are. That gives me hope.
Yeah. Now, I had the pleasure of being in church today, and it was a full house. There was no room. There was so many people. You mentioned that one of the desires is to be able to move into a new church building. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or that desire, and maybe some of the plans that are ahead? And if anyone wanted to help, what could they do?
私たちは
About 3 years ago, we began praying seriously about this and formed a committee to look for a new church property. Over those 3 years, we visited around 50 different locations. Now we are focusing on one specific place. During that time, our congregation has continued to grow, both in numbers and across different age groups, and the Lord has been showing us that it is time to move on. We are very thankful for the place we have now, but it is no longer large enough for our needs. We need space for different ministries. We have an auditorium, but we also need proper rooms for Sunday school. Right now, our children are meeting in what is basically a storage room. We simply do not have the space to do the ministries we want to do. For our senior members, climbing to the second floor is becoming more difficult. And unlike mainland Japan, we do not have trains here, so everyone comes by car. At our current building, the parking lot can only fit 6 cars. we have been praying for a ground-level building with plenty of parking and enough space to create rooms for all our ministries. Ideally, we are praying for a space about twice the size of what we have now. We looked at many properties, but most were either too expensive or very old. The place the Lord has led us to now is fairly new, reasonably priced, and seems like something we can truly use. Our building committee agreed, our general officers agreed, and when we presented it to the church, the congregation was in favor of moving forward. Of course, we do not currently have the funds to purchase the property outright. We are speaking with banks to see what kind of loan might be possible. At the same time, we are praying that the Lord would burden others to give and help make this building possible.
Gato. Last question. Maybe someone's watching these videos and the Lord is leading their heart to consider Japan. Why Okinawa? Why would you say Okinawa needs someone to come? Or would you say they don't need anyone to come? Obviously, it's beautiful here, but why should someone consider coming to Okinawa to share the gospel?
When we look at churches of like faith that we work closely with, there are about 4 on the island. 3 of them are located in the central part of Okinawa. 1 is farther north, and then there is us. But in the capital city of Naha, which is the most populated area, there are no churches of like faith. That is a major need. Okinawa has a very different culture from the rest of Japan. While Japan's population is declining, Okinawa's population is still growing. Many people here are involved in ancestor worship, which is a deeply rooted part of life. We believe many are drawn to these beliefs because they are searching for something. At the same time, Okinawa is the poorest prefecture in Japan. There are significant financial struggles, family struggles, and overall more challenges than in many other parts of the country. The need here is real. Many Okinawans are looking for help from other gods. I have many friends who grew up in single-parent homes. Many are in debt, with no savings, and are searching in the wrong places for help and hope in their lives. And yet, there are very few churches available to reach them.
I am not originally from Okinawa. I came from mainland Japan and have lived here for the past few years. Because of the long presence of the American military, Okinawans are very used to seeing Americans and foreigners. I think that, in some ways, they may actually be more open to foreign missionaries than people in mainland Japan.
I feel a little bit like at home in Okinawa because it feels a lot like Guam and it feels a lot like Japan to me. And it's the best of both the worlds that my life has been in over the last couple of years. So thank you so much for your hospitality and allowing us to see what God's doing at the church and in Okinawa this week.
Thank you very much.
Please continue to pray for Okinawa